Podcasting from somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, the birthplace of Bruce Lee, the iPhone, and the bendy straw. This is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
There was a dream, a million miles away. There was fire in
Amazon.com. You know, I won't be surprised if more and more stuff that I shop for, buy, and get shipped to my home comes from Amazon. It's just a reality, right? And if this is your reality, go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon banner to get to Amazon. Why am I asking you to do so? Well, it is a no-cost-to-you way, if you like listening to Ruel's Running Podcast. It is a way that you can help the show out without spending more than you've already spent while shopping at the good folks at Amazon.com. So help us out. Go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon.com site, and shop, connect, and enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome. It's Ruel. How's it going? Hope everything is going well with you, with all that is good and pure, honest, dark and filthy, dusty, and funny. Whatever that means. Well, here we are again. Yay! Thanks for being here. If you are a new listener, welcome. Hope you check out the rest of the archives, the rest of the podcast. There's some good stuff, and there's just a whole lot of not so good stuff. But it's there for you to enjoy. Now, if you are a return listener, hey guys, welcome back. Good to have you back. I missed you. A lot's been going on. A lot has been going on. It's one of those mornings where I didn't catch that coffee. At this moment in time, I've had coffee. I usually start the morning with coffee, as folks who have listened to the old episodes know. I'll start off with a coffee press coffee, and I do it in a certain way. If anybody there uses a French press, the way I do it these days, and it changes from time to time. But what I'll do is I have the grounds, and I'll use a Peet's brand of coffee. I've many times had the Cafe Domingo, but these days I've been enjoying the Major Dickinson or Major Dick. I've been having Major Dick in the morning, and I buy it ground. I don't freshly grind the beans myself, but I'll measure the grounds. I'll pre-measure the grounds in a plastic little plastic bowl. These are little bowls that my wife bought years ago for when we had our first baby, and they're little nice little bowls. They come with lids so that if you want to do like little snacks or pureed food or whatnot, you could store it. But we've kept the bowls, many years later. We've kept the bowls, and they are used for my pre-measurement of my coffee grounds, which I will make in the French press. The bowls are also used for little serving containers when I give the kids their vitamins and pills and whatever else they may need, whether it be allergy medicine and vitamins or just vitamins. Anyways, back to coffee. Since I don't have any, let's talk about it. What I'll do is I'll heat up the water to 208 degrees, because that's just how the thing is set. We have we have a water heater, I guess is what it's called, a hot water dispenser, electrical. And the highest temp presetting is 208. Then it goes down to 190, I think 198, and then 165 or something like that. Some weird, I don't know how they came up with those numbers, but 208 is the hottest. So I'll hit the thing so that it's set to 208, and I'll wait for the water to get to temp. I'll dump the grounds, the pre-measured grounds, in the canister, or the whatever the hell it's called, the container for the French press, which is glass. And then once the water is hot enough, I'll dispense the hot water into the coffee press up to a certain amount. And it's a what is the brand? I can't remember the brand of French press, but on the side of the French press, there's like the logo, and there is some text, in white, that's been printed on the thing. And I know that up to a certain line of text is where I want my water. It's usually where it says the word kept, and that's basically equivalent to 2 standard mugs of coffee. And so I'll bring the water up there, up to that level. Then I'll take the press component, and with the screen, and I'll insert it into the container, and I'll bring it just right to the surface of the water. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a chopstick, and before I put the screen insert, I'll stir the coffee grounds in the hot water just to get it all wet. But let's say I did that, but sometimes I don't. I'll just stick the screen insert in to the surface of the mixture, and I'll wait generally 4 minutes. I'm not like on the edge of my seat, although today I was kind of like, I want to get my coffee. Generally 4 minutes, and then what I'll do is after 4 minutes, I'll take the French press, and I'll slowly press it down into the hot water. And there's still a lot of resistance, and I know that if there is a lot of resistance, I know that the grounds haven't really been soaked. So what I'll do is I'll press it down maybe an inch, right? And you'll see kind of bubbling up is all of this oily, foamy goodness from the coffee extracted from the grounds. But then below the screen, there's still all of these grounds that are bunching up below it. And what I'll do is I'll take the handle or the of the press, and I'll pull back out the press just a little bit, maybe about 1 centimeter or 2, in the reverse direction. What that does is it breaks the tension of all of those bunched up grounds, and you'll see some of them start to sink down, trickle off and sink to the bottom of the canister. And when that happens, more of this bubbly, foamy air and goodness starts to come out. And then I'll press the coffee press back down a couple of centimeters or an inch or so, and then that additional foam will be pressed through the screen and come up to the surface of the coffee. So I'll do that just to basically see more bubbles come out and air come out and create more foamy coffee oiliness. And I'll keep on doing that, maybe 3 more, total of 3 times till I get the thing completely pressed. So at the top of the coffee press, once everything is pressed all the way down, there's a lid, and the lid has a slotted opening which, if positioned correctly, faces the spout of the coffee press, so that when you pour it, all of the liquid goes through the slotted lid holes and then over the thing, right? Which is great. But what I do is before I pour my coffee, I'll actually open up the lid it just enough to avoid having to use that sort of slotted screen or on the cover, because I want all of that. The ultimate goal is to get all that foamy, coffee, oily goodness that's floating on the top of the coffee to actually pour out into my mug. I don't want it to be strained away from my mug. I want to dump it in my coffee. So I'll just pull the lid up just enough to do that and to keep most of the pressed grounds at the bottom. And then I'll just dump it all in the coffee, and I'll dump it quickly, and I'll do it in a way that I can sort of encourage most of that foam to come out. And what I end up with is exactly that, a mug with a foamy top, as foamy as coffee grounds can get. And, I heard somewhere that it's all of that oiliness that comes out of the bean that makes you feel good. And if it's true, I want to feel good. And I think that is the case whenever I enjoy coffee that way. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll warm up my mug with a little bit of that 208-degree hot water, dump out the water, or dump it back into the dispenser. Then I'll get a little bit of heavy whipping cream out of the refrigerator, and I'll splash a little bit just to cover the bottom of the mug, the warmed up mug. Then I'll do the whole coffee thing, dumping it in a certain fashion to allow most of that foamy oiliness to go in. And it's even more foamy on top. Nothing like a cappuccino foam, airy, cloudy, but foamy enough, and it's good. That's coffee. So I'll see if I can get a video going, then I'll share that, and that way if I'm stuck in at any point in time like I am now without a cup of coffee, I could just look at the video and pretend that I'm having it. That's coffee chat. No updates with family except, maybe there's one update. It was funny, yesterday was a bad commute day on the train. And, I get to the train like I usually do, and I'm standing at the platform, and on the speaker, there's an announcement that there's about a 10-minute delay because of some activity going on at a station further down. And it turns out it was more than a 10-minute delay. And I checked the alerts on the service's website, and turned out one of the stations the other stations on the tracks was a dog, and cops were trying to get the dog off the track, giving the cops a hard time. So, and I knew that because, the website said there was a dog on the track. But then when I went on to my company chat forum, I have coworkers who also use the train and who are going through the same delay, and someone had been waiting for a long time through the delay, and he had more information regarding the dog, and that's where I learned that there was police trying to get the dog. The dog was pretty good at evading evading the police, so basically the dog was winning the battle, right? And everyone else in needing the service. Oh, excuse me. That was the. I'm using the Boss Jock app to record this, and I've got some audio clips, at the ready. If I just tap on a button, then I can play some stuff. Something kind of like this. Huh? What do you guys think of that? Like that beat? Kind of laid back and groovy. But that's enough of that. And I got one of these too. It's the fast drums. And that was it. Anyways, so the dog was evading the police, and everyone was suffering through the delays. Eventually, a train rolls up to the platform, and I can get in it, but it's packed like sardines. So I'm like, forget that. I'll wait for the next one. And it took a while for the next one to come, but at least I wasn't standing in, a packed car. So when the next train rolls in, I grab a seat, it's awesome, But by this time, the coffee that I had, the last coffee that I had really worked through me, and I needed the bathroom. And I had been waiting quite a while already for the trains and through the delay, and I was just kind of like, oh man, I can't wait to get to where I need to get so I can use the restroom. But there were still residual delays from all that stuff with the dog. So, all right, kind of just have to just plow through it. Then sitting in a chair, and next to me is a young guy listening to his music, and he eventually gets off at a station. And at this time, there's more people in the car. People are standing. So we're sitting on a two-person seat. He was sitting by the window. I was sitting away from the window. He gets up. I make way for him. He gets out. I slide over towards the window and allow one of the other riders to sit down next to me. And immediately I realized, man, this seat smells like pee. It's not an uncommon smell, in through the train and in the city, but where I was sitting, it's not like I was sitting in pee or the guy peed. It was just like leftover smell from whatever had happened in the history of that seat. And I'm like, okay, but I am where I am, and that's just what I'm going to have to endure. And station after station, we get to a point where, in this commute from Oakland to San Francisco, there's the tube for the train that goes under the bay, and so we leave the last station, and the train goes under the bay, and there's still a level of cell service and whatnot under the tube, believe it or not. And I get a call, and it's one of my son's schools. I pick it up, and I'm told that my son has a swollen eye. It's kind of shut, and I'm like, okay, that's out. It's an allergy. He's had it kind of recently, and it's kind of flared up again. So I just asked them to have him chill out in the nurse's office with a wet compress over his eye so that he doesn't rub it or scratch it. So. And that I'd try to, once I get back to the other end of the bay into the city, I'll hop on the next train to go the other direction. Hopefully there aren't any delays, and pick up my kid and basically rescue him from having to wait in school with a bugged out eye. And so I get to the city, and I can't think straight because my bladder is pretty full, so I have to leave the train station and find a coffee place with a bathroom. I go into a Phil's Coffee, use their bathroom, and then I'm like, okay, now I can think again. Whew, awesome. And now that I could think, I'm thinking, I'm going to get me one of these coffees. So I order me a coffee before I hop back into the train, and it took a while for a train to show up for my destination. I could have taken another line that'll get me closer, then I would just have to do a transfer, but I didn't feel like doing that, so I waited for my train to eventually show, and it did. And it's weird, making the commute back so early in the day. I had to notify guys at work what was going on, and everyone kind of understands what's going on, so I had to rescue my kid, put a couple eye drops in his eye, give him a Benadryl, and have him chill out at home while I worked. He passed out as expected with the Benadryl, and sometime mid-nap I checked on his eye, and he had a lot of fluid kind of coming from his eye, and at this point it dried up and it sealed his eyelid shut, so I had to get some of that warm wet compress to kind of loosen all that stuff out, and to inspect his eye, and cleaned it out a bit and allowed him to continue to nap. And at the end of the day, he was better because his eye was open and it wasn't puffed out. It was still had some redness. It isn't it isn't conjunctivitis. He woke up this morning just fine. But you can still see residual puffiness around the eyelid. But he's functional. And so I gave him a Zyrtec and some eye drops and sent him on his way to school today, and hopefully no issues. So that's family. I have 2 other kids, and they're just rolling in routines, and that's just life right now. It's the kids, the schools, and doing the homeworks at the end of the day, and somehow managing to have some time with the kids, and also allowing them to have the time to do the things that they don't get a whole lot of time to do. The kids like to play on their iPad or on the Wii U, but they really don't get a whole lot of that because life's just too busy, and we don't have them carry those things around so that they can just flip it on whenever they want. Kind of like as adults, we have our phones and we just flip it open whenever we want. It's not the case with the kids. Yeah, that's family. What are we? We're 20 minutes in, and I gotta talk about running.
Coming up, Rue gives us something else to think about. How vague is that, Ruel? Geez. Could you be any vaguer, Ruel? Well, it's all coming up on Ruel's Running. Okay, the book is called Eat Happy, Gluten-Free, Grain-Free, Low-Carb Recipes for a Joyful Life by me, Anna Vicino. Eat Happy has 154 delicious grain-free, gluten-free recipes that are also free of any processed sugars. There are meats, fish, sides, soup, starters, casseroles, slow cooker recipes, breakfast dishes, and even desserts to satisfy any sweets craving you might have, all with virtually no sugar. If you are low-carb, paleo, are wanting to keep autoimmune issues at bay, or just want to lose extra weight, Eat Happy gives you comfort food where you won't miss the sugars or grains, so your body and brain can feel happy from eating real food. Okay, go get it then. Now's your chance. Yay! Yay!
I wanted to talk about the last run, the last event that I did, and want to get into that. Let's see how that goes. What went on? So last week, about a week ago, I wasn't feeling too good. Ate some bad food. That was a Thursday, and it carried on to Friday, and I just stayed home to recover so that I could be ready for what Saturday was going to bring, and what Saturday eventually did bring was a good event, some good running, and some bad running, some joy and a lot of suffering, but in the end, a whole lot of fun. What are you talking about, Ruel? So yeah, last Saturday I did an event, the Berkeley Trail Adventure, and it was put together by the folks at Inside Trail Running, or InsideTrail.com, and it took place at Tilden and Wildcat Canyon Parks over at Berkeley, California, and I signed up for their 50K, and I was excited leading up to the thing, knowing that I was going to do it. But at the same time, I wasn't putting a whole lot of mental energy. Just so busy with work and kids and school. But definitely, that Friday evening, I had to cram in a little focus, and that little focus had to be in the form of getting all my gear together. And so a little bit of information on the race. The Berkeley, this is off their website. The Berkeley Adventure Run brings runners and walkers into two East Bay gems, Tilden Regional Park and Wildcat Canyon. Tilden offers something for everyone, including an abundance of coast live oak and eucalyptus trees. Runners can enjoy shady trails broken up by open, exposed sections serving up views of the bay, Golden Gate Bridge, and on clear days, Mount Tamalpais or Tamalpais. Aid station is located every 5 to 7 miles, where participants can load up on fruit, potatoes, and other runner-friendly foods and beverages. This is a fabulous race for runners of all ages, and is particularly a great one for those embarking on their first trail running event. Which is true. They've got, in addition to the 50K, they've got a 35K event, a half marathon, and a 10K. Awesome. A little bit about the course that I was on. It, 31 miles with 6,800 feet of elevation gain. Awesome. So the altitude is less than 2,000 feet, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000, somewhere in the middle there. Awesome. Let's see. So I did the run. The last run I did was a month before, which I didn't wrap up because I didn't make the aid station cutoff. So I did the last long run that I did prior to this Berkeley Trail Adventure was it's basically a half marathon. That one was at the CTR Diablo Trails Adventure. So here I am. This will be my third event ever for the 50K, and I wanted to use this like I did the last time to see if I can improve on my February 50K event. The 50K February event was also put out by Inside Trails, and I did that event 8 hours and 8 and 12 or something like that. There was an 8.5 hour cutoff. I came in dead last, so I wanted to do better than that for the Berkeley Trail Adventure, and let me talk about it. First of all, again, why do I do these things? This isn't unusual. In my office, it's unusual because not everyone wants to run, just wants to run, period. There are a few that have done Ironman type stuff within the office, and there are a few that do long distance cycling, but no one does the 50K and beyond type runs. A few will do half marathons, some will do a marathon, but it's unusual when I look at the office. But step away, in the running community, the ultra running community, there's just a ginormous amount of feats being performed, some really, really long, some really, really fast and long, and just some really, really gnarly and awesome, super hot or super freezing cold type stuff. So, this is nothing special, but I do want to talk about the event as, from my perspective, I do it because I want to test myself. It's not easy for me, and when I first started doing 50K and beyond type distances, they were, again, right out of my home, and there weren't these 8 hour, 8.5 hour, 9 hour cutoffs. I could just take most of the day to get it done at my leisure. So the test was, and why it's not easy is I have to cover the distance and try not to get cut off and do the best I can through the elevation, through the trail, all which is stuff that it's still really new to me, right? All of my solo runs have just been through the neighborhood and really, really and paved trails, nothing technical like this event. So I go out, I test myself, try to be faster, and try to not destroy myself along the way, and take advantage of the aid station support, where when I would do solo runs, I would have to coordinate stuff with the family so that they can meet me along the way. So I start doing these events so that someone else sets the course. I don't have to create the course. Someone sets the course, provides the support, and the biggest part is that I get to connect with the community, the runners, the not just the ultra folks, but everyone else there that's just there to have a good time and do the best that they can. So, leading up to the event, diet wise, I could stand to lose some pounds. I can stand to clean up my diet a little bit better. I'm not as clean as I used to be, but NSNG is still a big part of me. And what I mean by cleaning up is, I'm still at a point where, and it's probably a year now, where I'm eating just way more carbohydrates than I need to, right? In the form of, snacks and rice and stuff and celebratory cakes and stuff. It's not like I go out and snack on junk food, like a typical day for me is I'll just still have my coffee and a splash of heavy cream, right? And I'll generally not go through lunch. I'll have a nice walk or some stair climbs, or I'll go for a run, and then I'll head home. I'll pick up the kids. I'll prepare dinner. So I'll basically fast throughout the day and have a workout and then have a dinner. But then on the weekends, it just, all of that just kind of, that doesn't happen. I'm out having meals with the kids. I'm with the family. I'm preparing meals and whatnot. And there's kid parties and stuff. And especially like after an event like this, I'll quickly follow it the next day with a kid party, and then I'll feel like I'm a little bit depleted, and I kind of feel like I'm just going to give myself a break. I destroyed myself. Why don't I treat myself better? And I'll just put a little life into living, and I'll have some of this, whatever's at the party, right? So in general, I'm not like, I'm still, my normal mode is NSNG, but I need to tighten it up. I'm definitely not on the standard American diet train. I'm far from that. I'm still fitting in my clothes. They could fit better, but I'm still in my small shirts, and I'm still in my sub 30 jeans. So, so that's that. As far as training leading up to this event, as previously mentioned, the last long event that I did was the half marathon failed 50K attempt the month before. Hadn't done any specific running leading up to this event. I had done several stair sessions just for climbing sake. I would do like 40-minute stair sessions. And that was pretty much it. Yeah. So, what's going on? It's funny. I talked about a couple days prior to the event, having some bad stomach issues because of some food that I ate, and around that time I had listened to a podcast episode with Vinny and Anna, and Anna had asked Vinny, this is on the Celebrity Fitness Trainer podcast, the Monday episodes. Anna asked Vinny, what would you rather have if you had a choice, diarrhea or constipation, right? And it was like, oh look, that's kind of like my life right now. And Vinny's answer was he'd rather be constipated, because at least he could do stuff and not worry about like leakage or having to find a bathroom throughout the day. And Anna was kind of like, well, she's more like diarrhea, right? Because she'd rather have stuff flush out of her than not be sort of like kept in, And so here I was dealing with stomach issues, and, whenever I went to the bathroom, I had diarrhea type stuff, right? So, and I realized, for that, if I had a choice, well, there was an aspect to the question. There was a whole dimension that wasn't included in the question: diarrhea versus constipation. Because whenever pain and discomfort is added, none of it is ideal, right? So, I think the question was very, very non-inclusive as far as pain. It was just consistency of stool. So. Consistency of stool wise, without any pain and suffering, I'd go with constipation, and this is why. Because the butthole is deceptive when you are constipated, and what I mean by that is, you might feel like you need to just pass some gas. But then, it's not real. You think you're passing gas, but your ass is leaking. And that's why diarrhea is not ideal. Constipation, at least you don't make a mess. So, in that, for that question, diarrhea versus constipation without any pain, diarrhea is not my thing. Because I had been going through that, I'd rather be constipated. Pain, not good altogether. Discomfort, not good at all. Just not good at all. And I put that question out on the Facebook group, on the Vinnie Tortorich No Sugar No Grains Facebook group, the main group, the secret group. And there's a lot of responses, and it was fun to see. Some person responded with yes, please. So they felt like they were being offered to have some diarrhea or constipation, and then I was going to serve it to them. Others were like, gross, disgusting, no way, and it had a whole lot of fun with that thread. Anyways, back to the running. The other thing about what I wanted to say was that when I could gorge on a bunch of bread, say I want to put life into living and I'm having a good time, I'm with the family and someone puts bread at the table and I kind of put the bread and the butter and the bread and the olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and I load up on that stuff, and get what ends up happening is I kind of get constipated, right? I mean, not right away, but when the time comes for me to use the bathroom, the effect of the bread causes a level of constipation on me, right? And which is not good, because I don't know why I'm trying to hone in on the details of poop, but I am. And so what happens is, there's a bit of constipation, and you do your best to get it done in the bathroom, but then it's not really completely done. And what that does is it leaves my a-hole feeling itchy from the inside. I can't get to it. And, I have to sort of like, at some point, clear out so that stuff doesn't bother me. So, that's when constipation isn't great. So don't gorge on bread and avoid the itchy a-hole. Anyways, I'll move on. Kind of having too much fun with poop. So again, I stayed home the Friday before the event and just tried to, just chill out and allow my gut to settle. I pinged Scott Kummer from 10 Junk Miles, and I asked him, because he's an ultra badass, right? He's done multi-day super long events, and I've never been in a position where leading up to a long run have sort of stomach issues. So I wanted to find out from him what his advice would be, And he basically said, just stop eating, give the body time to clear out, right? Because eventually, when it's time for the event, you're gonna have to eat. You can't not eat. You need to take in the fuel. And he was right. And so, the way you cause he said, you stop eating, let it clear out, and allow yourself to get hungry again. And then that's when you can eat. But, right now, when I'm having the issues, don't put anything in, because it might just... that's basically now I'm just kind of like trying to interpret more into what he advised. Makes sense, right? If you've got GI issues, adding more food might cause more irritation. So by clearing it out, have all of that, say, imagine there's like gut inflammation going on, allow all that to calm down and get things back to a normal state and working, so that when it really matters, when you're out in the event and it's time to fuel, you can do those things and keep you going. So that was advice that I really appreciated from Scott. And but guess what? I think I just ate normally throughout the Friday, and because I was feeling hungry, and there wasn't sort of a stop eating thing for me. And I think for the most part I was okay, because Saturday morning rolled around. I got up really early, or about 5:30, to get some coffee in me and to encourage some movement, some poop movement, and had a good one. And it wasn't like a runny mess, but it wasn't like a nice firm a firm wad of stuff. It was just kind of like stuff, kind of moisty, but it was a good hefty unloading, which is what I want while I'm at home and not in the middle of the trail. So I was happy for that. So I got myself ready after all that. I had the coffee and I had the gear that was set aside for me, and the fuel and the lubes, all that set aside the night before. The typical stuff, that I do before heading out is I'll get the what the heck is it called? It's like the lube on a stick, the anti-chafing stuff. I'll put that like over the nipples and under the arms, between the thighs, and some weird spots like around my ankles, and because the stick also provides a kind of like a layer of like if I put it around my ankles and I have socks, I not only will the ankle portion of the sock not irritate me, but it'll kind of hold that part of the sock in place in case my sock feels like it wants to come down. But that wasn't an issue. I'll put some of that protection around my hip bones, because in the past, like, the band of the shorts had caused some irritation and stuff, so it was weird. But so then the important stuff was getting the Aquaphor or the petroleum jelly, and just like putting it into nether regions, right? Putting it on my junk. Folks may not know this, but depending on the quality of shorts, depending on the looseness of the shorts, and depending on how long you're out there, women won't know this, but guys, when your junk, when your showing portion, the head of the snake is out there, just kind of just hanging out during a long event, there's a lot of sort of like brushing up against the inside of your shorts that at the end of an 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour session, it gets sensitive. So to avoid that, I get the petroleum jelly or the Aquaphor, and I just kind of like, I lather that stuff all over the junk to prevent that. And then also the other things that you may not notice as well is, at least for me, is like the area between my nutsack and my a-hole and my butt crack, right? Apparently, there's enough of the same sort of motion and friction over a long period of time that there's, irritation that can happen in those spots. So, gotta take all of that petroleum jelly down there as well, and kind of, it's like, spreading a peanut butter in a hot dog bun kind of stuff. You're just kind of like gotta put stuff down there, and it sounds disgusting and gross right now, but it could mean a whole lot less suffering down the road and later. And the bonus too is, as your body temperature warms up, that stuff sort of kind of really spreads out, and should you need to take a shit in the middle of the day, that just acts as a barrier, and it makes cleanup really, really easy. Sometimes it's one of those ghost poops. You don't even have to do any cleanup because it just, like dogs don't have to wipe their ass. They just kind of squat in their own doggy kind of way, poop, and they're done, and there's no cleanup. So it's kind of like that. So I'm talking a whole lot of nonsense because there isn't a whole lot to the run, right? It's just get to the event, find parking. Parking was easy. Parking was free. Enjoyed the drive over. I get to the thing and I pick up my bib because my name is Abadam. I'm on the top of the pile of bibs. Get my bib. I get back to my vehicle and I sort of get all that pinned on, and I kind of watch everybody else sort of get ready, and feeling good. Don't have any expectations, just wanting to do the best I can. And the folks that line up are the 50K and the 35K folks. They all line up at the same time. Race start is at 8:30. I got there at 7:30. So did a couple trips to the bathroom just to kind of get some pee out of me. I had some coffee with me, and so I had some of that just because that stuff always makes me feel happy. And I took some pictures. I stayed in the back of the pack at the starting. There was a few more announcements. Everyone looked great. Everyone looked like they were going to kill it. Took a few more pictures. Saw some familiar faces. Didn't talk to anyone other than the staff that helped me get my bib. And, and went off running, And it was a new trail for me. I didn't know what to expect. And, I had some ideas of how I wanted to approach the race. I wanted to approach it by, just running my own race and keeping things nice and steady and consistent and not be pulled along by any other runner's efforts. And I decided, too, that, I would just kind of keep to myself, because if I struck up a conversation with somebody, I might accidentally get pulled into their race or their run and not pay attention to what I'm doing, or I might get too excited and just kind of throw things off. And none of that happened, right? I felt I was kind of good, and I started kind of running along with other folks that felt like a good clip, good pace. And that leading up to the first aid station was a blast. I had so much fun. It got really technical. The terrain got really gnarly. There's some good amount of ups and downs. It was really awesome, and I was running along behind a gentleman who I've met in February, and my goal was to keep up with him. And he does a lot of these runs, so if I could keep up with him, then I'll be in good shape. But then there I was. By deciding to do that, I was already out of my race, but I seemed okay. I seemed comfortable. I seemed fine, And we went through that first section, maybe the first 5 miles, and it was awesome. Got to the aid station. I didn't need anything because I was carrying a lot of stuff with me, and I just went on my way. And the gentleman that I had followed up to that point, he stayed behind and stayed at the aid station a bit longer. And I was feeling good. I didn't need anything, so I figured I'll just keep going and not spend any time at the aid station. And it was between that time and the second aid station where, he passed me up. So, experience, more fit, and it shows, And I won't lie, there was more climbing too, and it did weigh on me psychologically, like, and this is where, it starts to happen where you can feel so high and it can get so low. You can start to feel so low real quickly. And I had gone through a lot of that, and so along the way I was finding other folks to sort of tag along and try to use them as a distraction and hopefully, get pulled along that way. And, a lot more good running was done, but in addition to the good running, there was a lot of the psychological stuff that I was going through. Really, really good, feeling awesome, to like, oh man, I'm not doing that great. And it's really humbling. The trail is really humbling. Doesn't matter who I am, anybody, any shape, size, age, gender, is we're all neutral, and it really shows how there's so many awesome people out there that kill it, and I aspire to be able to do what they do, because there are women out there that you would look at them and think like, okay, that's just your average person, but nope, she's killing it out there, climbing and bombing down those technical trails, and I'm just being left in their dust. So it's really humbling, and it's really nice to watch, because even though I'm testing myself out and I'm having my moments that are great and not so great, I'm witnessing, like a celebration of, the human, the human capabilities and spirit, to be out there in that wilderness. And any type of person, any walk of life, they're out there and they're enjoying the heck out of it, and they're performing, and it's great, really great. It's there's a feeling of camaraderie, even if we're not talking to each other. We're the same, we're just kind of going through it. So it was really good. It was really good, Back to that first section where I was able to keep up with the gentleman. His name is we'll call him Mac, because everyone seems to call him Mac, and that's a nickname for his real name. I was following Mac, and we were going down this really rocky, uneven, tight spot, and he was flowing, and I was flowing right behind him, and I was thinking, man, if he were to fall, I'd fall right over him, or if I fell, it wouldn't be good at all. And there was a moment where I did. I kind of slipped and started to fall backwards. It was kind of downhill, but I caught myself with my left hand. It was very similar fashion to the spill that I had at the wet 50K in February. But the momentum and the grade, I was able to spring back up quickly. It felt like I almost sprained my finger on my right hand, and I kept running, kept kind of coming down. And at that moment, and on top of the energy that was going on, there was like the shot of adrenaline had come through, of fear and other stuff. It was just, you could just, the chemical change is just crazy whenever that happens. I mean, no harm done. Just, I had to be more careful, but I still kept the pace up, and it was nice. I mean, if the race I felt was just 10K, and then we ended it there, I would have felt like, wow, this was a success for me. I performed really well. Anyways, hey guys, this is me picking back up where I left off. Kind of bonehead move. As I mentioned previously, I'm recording on the Boss Jock app and that's on my phone, and my phone ran out of space, I think, and then it stopped recording. So I was just talking about the run, and then I don't know, I just realized, like, I better check the phone to make sure that it's still doing what it's supposed to do, and sure enough, it had stopped doing what it's supposed to do. And so I saved that file, and I transferred it over to the computer. So we're actually a day later from when I started talking, and I'm going to pick up where I left off. And I am on the go. I need to get where I need to get, and go from there. So what happened is, if I remember correctly, I took somewhat of a spill bombing down this technical piece of the trail and tailing a more experienced runner. Mac is his name, and I was having a great time, and the adrenaline had kicked in, that weird feeling of I don't know, it's like this fear and excitement all kind of mashed in together, but while I was still trying to focus on my footing and moving along, and it was awesome. And we eventually got to the first aid station, and that would be about mile 5 or 6, something like that. And it was great. It's feeling good. I didn't need anything because I have nutrition on hand, I have hydration on hand. So it was a matter of just, saying hi to some folks and smiling and thanking folks. Excuse me. Because you want to, it's respectful, it's courteous to thank the volunteers who are out there, aid station to aid station, giving their time to provide support for everybody out on the trail, and participating in the event. And I grabbed a little thing of water. I didn't need it, but I figure the more water I can get elsewhere would mean less for me to refill either in my pack or in my handheld. And I was ready to go. I was having fun, and but Mac stayed behind, and I thought, okay, I just want to go because I feel like I want to take advantage and not waste any time. So I went, and the aid station support person said, you got to go that way, hashtag up or uphill or something. Or so that was just sort of like, yeah, that's what you should expect. And I'm like, okay, I mean, of course there's going to be climbing. And I went on my way, and I just tried to maintain that level of effort that and pacing that I had done while trailing another runner. And it was good. It was more climbing, it was more, it was gorgeous out there. These trails I've never been on before, but man, just if you've never done it, you should try it. Just go out there. If someone can mark off a trail for you, if that concerns you, or if you want to explore, just don't get lost. It's incredible, and if you you add that on top of the excitement of an event like this where, everybody else is doing it, and, you are challenging yourself. It just stacks on the incredible feeling of being out there. But, you can't help but turn around and look down and see as far as you can see the surroundings, pretty cool. So there I was, just chugging along and finding other runners and to sort of latch onto, right? And keep my mind off of, some of the discomfort, but also it's weird, when you're out there, and it happens a lot when I'm telling somebody, is my mind starts to create stories around, things that I see, or my mind, I start talking, having this dialogue internally about how, like, whoa, there's that person, they're really strong, right? They must be do this a lot, and if I can manage to stay together with them, maybe that'll help, keep me moving, and and I start wondering, like, I wonder what other events he or she has done, and like, oh, I wonder where they bought their shoes, just all this weird stuff, because there's just you and nature and the other runners. So my mind does things like that, and at the same time, I'm just capturing, because you're out there, right, for hours, and you sort of, the imagery of these runners gets sort of embedded in your mind. And I find out later that I can go online and look at, the community pictures on the race event website and the other past events, and I see these same people. I'm like, wow, right? I remember running alongside that person or following that person, and it just brings a closer sense of community. And and some of these folks I end up, friending on Facebook, on social, and having a chat with on the trail or after the race, and becoming somewhat friends, and it's pretty cool. Anyways, so there I was. This was past the first aid station, so we're trying to get to, I think that was fun. I don't know, maybe the 10, if there's something around the 10 or 12 mile mark of aid station, or 13, trying to get there. And so along the way, I get passed up by Mac, right? He says, he's like, hey, how's it going, right? And he's got earbuds on like I do, and he just kind of, in a strong, solid fashion, he just cruises on by me, and I'm thinking that I'm making a good effort, and he's just gone, right? Wow. And I remember replying to him and saying something like, the strategy is to just try to keep up with you. And he had just come from behind. So, and he pulled out an earbud. He's like, what do you say? Because he didn't hear me. And I said, I'm just, my strategy is just to try to keep up with you. And he kind of had like this reaction, like I don't know, kind of like, I don't know. It's like, okay, kind of. And he was gone, and I just like, okay, I'll try to keep up, but little by little, I didn't match up. So I had to remind myself, okay, we're at a point where I just got to just latch on to somebody else and run and try to run my own race. And there's a lot more of the data to go, to happen. It's still early on, and I have to remind myself, like, okay, let's just try and keep it even and steady within myself, and try to get like 80% of the way that way, and then the last 20 I can think about, if I'm in good shape, trying to push it a little bit. That's just kind of what I'm thinking, right? Don't push it too early. So get to the second aid station, something like, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 mile area point. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'll have something. I'll have potatoes. I'll have some chips or something, but not a whole lot because I still, have a bunch of stuff. And I'm sort of reassessing, how I'm doing. And it's at this point where more runners come in and they're like, oh, there's this Asian guy back there. He's wearing blue, he's injured, so you guys might want to check on him, as she spoke to the aid station crew. And I'm just hanging out a little bit longer and munching down on a few things, just wanting to getting whatever I can in to sort of hopefully change my mindset and feel good. It's all about feeling good, I think I have all the energy, all of the nutrition I need to make the effort. I just need to eat something to change my thinking. That's just how I feel. And eventually the guy in blue rolls up, and he looks fine, right? He looks fine, and he just want to get more nutrition, more calories, and hydration. And he looked like he was like raring to go. He was just on the move, I arrived to that aid station earlier, but that doesn't mean that I'm fast. It just means that I probably started before he did, and in comparison, he was hustling. And later did I learn how much hustling he was doing. The aid station person asked him, "Are you the guy that the girls were saying that got injured and whatnot?" And he's like, it's kind of like, yes, you can visibly see he's injured, but there's no indication in his words or in his expression that he was looking forward to get any sympathy or stop, right? There's no stopping him. So it's like, get more calories, get more fluid, and he was gonna go. So he stayed there, and I left. And what did I do? I actually, right before hitting the trail again, there was this is a place called Inspiration Point, and there's actually a restroom, bathroom facility. So took advantage of that while it was there, and then I headed out. And at this point in the course, it's pretty paved until it's not. But so we're somewhere between 10 and 12, 13, heading towards the 15 mile 15 aid station, and it starts to open up, gets more exposed. The hills start really rolling in that exposed section, and eventually it stops being paved, and you've got cows, around, and you've got a shit ton of cow shit on the trail, and you're just nature. This clearly isn't our area. We're just visitors here. This belongs to the cows. And along the way, I'm just trying to make my effort, and I hear kind of some shuffling and heaving and grunting happening from behind me, and I get passed up by the guy in blue, right? And then we sort of do this thing for a while where we sort of pass each other up, and we catch up, and someone else passes, and then we catch up, that whole cycle. He stays consistent and level with his technique, and that's basically he had injured a hamstring, and he had twisted an ankle, and his gait was pretty awkward, but he was moving regardless, and he would grunt, and every now and then grunt even harder, but he was moving with a lot of intent, and I would speed walk, speed hike, and we would sort of be at the same pace, right? And then then he would pass up, and then I would let him kind of move forward, or he would just move forward, and I would do my pace, and then I would run up, catch up with him, and then speed walk. I would alternate my effort, and we were with each other up until the mile 15 aid station, and and in that time we got to introduce ourselves. It was funny, we were running alongside each other for quite a while in that period, where when the faster 50K runners were coming the other direction, he would break out his phone, stop, and take pictures of these other runners who he was familiar with. And I would stop because I just didn't want to be in the shot. So I stopped alongside of him and just smile and be amused. Then we would both move along together. Then he would eventually find another runner, stop, take pictures, and I would stop again because I don't want to be in the pictures. So we finally got to talking. He introduced himself. I introduced myself in one form or fashion or another. And he asked if I was injured or anything. I'm like, no, I'm just not strong. And he was clearly injured, but he was also clearly strong. And he was given some words of advice, and I won't lie. Initially, when I first saw him kind of pass me, I was thinking, oh man, he's who is this guy, right? Is he going to last? Because that's the first impression you get. If you don't know this gentleman, you're thinking, man, he's just kind of he's clearly hurt, and a lot of people were asking him, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he's like, "No, I'm not." But he just kept on shuffling along, and it was awesome thinking back. He said, "No, I'm not," but he just kept on plowing through the trail. But he was giving me advice on how, okay, make sure that I have my salts and I have enough liquid, and when I get to the next aid station, we'll roll together, and to make sure that I get some ice on me and some water, and just get that all on me, splashed on me, and I'll end up feeling like fresh and new. And he wanted me to finish, right, and not and finish before him, and to not basically stick with him, because he considered himself a lost case, a lost cause. He's just out there to see how much you can do at this point, considering that he's injured. He said he hurt his hamstring, he twisted his ankle, and every now and then while he was plugging along, he would get this sharp, intense pain, like on his rear hip, his glute area, like as if a hammer was smacking him in that area. It's like, my God, but he was doing it, man. And we were going down a section. I don't know if it's called a canyon or not. I was taking in some more of his advice. I'm not one of those guys that'll be like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, so have you done this before? And what have you done? What are your accomplishments?" I'm not one that's kind of like poke at folks and try and get a resume. I just don't want to be nosy like that. He did say that this was his first time on this course. Typically for this race organization, he'll do something up in Marin. I think it's like a 50 or 100 miler. He kind of sticks to those, so that automatically told me that the 50K is not a long distance for him. He's done greater distances, and it's awesome. So we get to mile 15, and hopefully my phone doesn't stop this time. We get to mile 15, aid station, and again I'm like, at this point I don't want. I'll grab some packets of goo chomps because those sort of save me mentally, psychologically. Somehow the sugar sort of messes with my mind, and whatever ugliness I feel like I'm going through just momentarily goes away. And so I grabbed a couple packs of those. I was remembering his advice, and his name is Chiping, and or I'll just call him Chip here because I'm lazy. And so I remembered Chipping's advice, and I grabbed a salt. I had my own salt capsules, but I just grabbed what was conveniently on the aid station. At the aid station, just grabbed one, and I had some water, and I wanted to fill my handheld with more water, and I was going for a cooler, and the aid station worker said, "Oh, that's electrolytes, the tailwind product." And then I'm like, "No, I want water." And then aid station person switched pictures that he had on hand, and he poured me some water, and I looked at him, and it was a familiar face, right? And I was like, Ken? He's like, yeah. Like, hey, Ken, nice to meet you. It's Ruel. And he kind of took a second. He's like, hey, how's it going? You know? And I was like, it's funny, I was just listening to you, and it was Ken Michael from Running Stupid, right? The podcast. Someone that I friended back in February. He was on the Lake Chabot Red Tail Ridge 50K. He's a memorable face, and but I finally got to, I guess, meet him and talk to him. This is the first time. But we've been Facebook friends, and even before that, we were connected on Facebook. I have this other Facebook group called Podcasters in Training, kind of like Team in Training, but Podcasters in Training. And Scotty Kummer from 10 Junk Miles had added Ken, if I'm not mistaken, to the group. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. And when new members come to the group, I like checking them out and checking their podcasts out and listening to new stuff. And Ken's podcast has been around for a long time, and he's one of those guys that his thing is doing the Hurt 100, or is the Hurt 2? I don't know. Doing Hurt. It's the ultra up in Hawaii, and yeah, man. It's like, hey, and it's good to meet you. Finally, it's like, it's funny. I was just listening to your Headlands episode, your recent Headlands 100 episode, or Headlands 50 or something. Pretty cool, And I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend, his spouse. I don't know. She was running the aid station with him. Her name was Karen, and I didn't realize that till after the event, but she was very helpful to me. She was offering me aid station stuff, and she told Chipping and I, was like, hey, don't want to worry you guys, but you guys are cutting it close to cutoff, right? And I already expected that I'd be like the last guy on the trail, but just hearing somebody else say it, worried me. And it was a familiar place, at the 50K and back in February. That's where I was, but I really wasn't feeling strong about it. But I was like, I gotta give it a go. So and Ken was talking to Chiping. He's like, he noticed that Chiping was dealing with some injuries, but Ken was like, hey, you've been through tougher than this, Chiping, right? And that's another kind of indication, like, that Chip is somebody that knows his stuff, who's more experienced, and especially if Ken's saying it, right? Because Ken's like incredible. So I'm like, okay. I was watching Chiping fill up his handheld with, it looked like he might have been mixing, liquids and gels, whatever. I don't know, but I was like, okay, he's gonna catch up with me. I'm just gonna go, because I've been in here before. I'll leave an aid station and everybody else just sort of like just passes me up at some point. But I'm not going to be that guy who spends more time at the aid station than I need to, and I'm not going to pass anybody up. I just don't feel like I'm that guy, and there's nobody to pass up considering Jiping and I are practically the last people on the course. At least that's what it feels like. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it feels like. And so I head out, and I'm feeling good, right? And Karen's like, yeah, you go, right? I go, doing great. I head one direction, and the thing is, from 15 to the 21-mile aid station, it kind of circles around, and you get back to that same aid station. And that same aid station is your mile 21 aid station. So I'm like, okay, I can see where I'm supposed to be coming back from. That doesn't seem like anything. I'll see you soon. So that's 6 miles of I'll see you soon, right? It's not easy, I'll see you soon. It's sort of like, get ready to become mincemeat, see you soon. And I realized that later. I left mile 15, headed out, feeling great, took a turn, I took a turn on the trail, and my stomach took a turn. I faced the... Okay, there was enough of that. So it happened again. The recording stopped, and I had to pick up where I left off. And it is yet another day. So this is the longest session to record an episode ever. But I just had it. I've had it. I've had to get rid of that phone and replace it. So I'm operating on something new. And if you can hear all that noise in the background, I am driving once again. Just got to get this done. So there I was. My stomach took a turn after I took that turn. And and out went the tailwind, out went that water, out went the what I can only imagine as the capsule of salt stick, and a bit of stomach acid, and wonderful. That was new for me. Not really. I think I hurled on that first marathon I did in San Francisco. But it's been a long time. It's that was 2011, 2017. So 6 years have passed since I've hurled in the middle of a run. And I remember now. It's not just your typical like, oh, I threw up, there you go, okay. Eyes are sort of like all burning and watery because you kind of like dry heave, wet heave, and heave and hoe. And it's when you're exhausted and it's pretty spent, and you throw up and you're like, okay, I'm just really, really messed up right now. And the last thing you want to do is put anything other than water, if anything, back into your system because you're just so uneasy and unsettled. And so quickly I was like, okay, I'm good. I'll just carry on, and it was starting to warm up. And at this part of the course, we got some paved trail, pretty good. Not even I don't even know if it's even called a trail. It just looks like a nice big winding or curved parking space. I don't know. Then eventually it becomes dirt trail again, and it climbs and it climbs, and it's very deceiving from that last aid station where you could see where you head out and you could see where you're supposed to return. And there I was, making some climbs up on this exposed section of the course, and it looked like I was going further away further away from that aid station. Much further away. Oh my God. And about, so a lot of open space, trail, and beautiful views when you take the moment to take a look. And you climb, and then you come back down. And at this point, I can't even remember. But I've ended up removing that one arm sleeve and wrapping it around my knee. All right, because it just was very unstable, and it really bothered me going downhill. The downhills early on in the event were glorious and had a lot of fun, but I've learned that my knees aren't strong. After a while they kind of have their issues. So I wrapped my right knee with an arm sleeve. I didn't slide my leg into the arm sleeve because that would be weird. I just wrapped it like a tourniquet or something, or a Band-Aid. I don't know, just a simple knot. And the climbs were very slow, and it was getting pretty warm, and you could feel the sun, kind of damaging my skin, and it was good. It was great, and eventually, Cheaping, comes up behind me, and he's, good old Cheaping, consistent and steady and moving forward, and he was flowing. He asked if I was hurt again, and then I'm like, nope, I'm just hurting and just not as strong, that kind of stuff, and he just pounded up that hill, still with a bit of a limp and awkwardness to his gait, because he was dealing again with that injury of his hamstring and his ankle, but he was pounding up that hill, and my mind said, stick with him, get pulled along and just go. And I tried, and then I just couldn't. I just like removing air from a balloon is like that was me, a deflated balloon. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hang back. And he caught up. As I saw uphill, he caught up to where there was a hiker, and later on after the event, he said he thought that Cheaping thought I was right behind him all along, but I said no, that was that hiker. And I caught up to the hiker eventually, and but yeah, Cheaping knocked it out. He was gone, and it was one of those climbs where you get over a big old hill, or I don't know what it's called, a ridge or something, and then you're like, yay, I'm on top, but then I gotta go back down, and my knees are killing me, and then quickly it's like, there's another climb. So I learned later on that it was described as there were two big climbs, but I guess that's right. It just felt like an eternity climbing, only to be disappointed that it wasn't over. And I was really longing to get back to that aid station, and every climb and turn and wherever I can not have any sort of trail and hill blocking my view, I'd look, where is that aid station, and where am I supposed to go? And I just kept on following the course. And man, when I passed up a bunch of folks on a hike, it looked like a class or something. One guy asked, so who are you running for, like charity-wise. I'm like, this is just for, good old-fashioned personal suffering. It's like, okay, good luck. You're looking good. So pass those guys up, and, each of the climbs, every climb, it was fine, except when my hips tightened up, or if I just needed to take a break and get a breather. Climbing was fine. The levels, right when I get to the top and it levels off, I could jog a little bit, but then, man, quickly when it turns to downhill, it just wasn't good. It was really defeating. Really, every time I thought about that aid station, I was like, yes, I can't wait for that aid station. Right? I'll get to see Karen and Ken again, and then, yes, they're going to tell me, like, you're done, you're toast, you're off the course, you're off, and we'll take you on a comfy, cozy ride back to the finish. Right? That was in my mind. I'm like, and that's how defeated I was. And I eventually, get sight after a long 5-6 miles to come back around. I finally had sight from a distance, the aid station, and the canopy had already been taken down, but I could see the campsite, and I was just feeling really butchered. I was really feeling, ground up, and going down, because I had to go downhill to get there, and pretty pathetic. I couldn't run. I couldn't quickly bomb down. It was just sort of like, I felt like I felt like a zombie trying to come downstairs. That's good. That's actually a good. Oops, that was my phone. Zombie going downstairs. What's that like? And I finally get there, and sure enough, the canopy is folded up, and Ken's trying to get it nice and packed up so that it can be hauled out. I asked Karen, so how are things looking as far as time-wise? And she's like, you gotta go, you can't stop here because there isn't a ride for you. And what do you need? What do you need? I'm like, I guess I just need some water. And then she threw some ice and water in my handheld, and I'm like, all right, headed back out. It's funny, as butchered and defeated I was, what was to come surprised me. And what surprised me was that from mile 21 to get to probably 26, that aid station where there were restrooms, things got better for me. I was able to quickly get out of that funk and mindset of, oh, pathetic me, you should just get pulled off the course and taken back in a comfortable ride. It was more like, I gotta go. I gotta make a go at this. I have to, I'm gonna have to go with the idea that I'll cut it close. Whether it's cutting it close before the cutoff, I'll cut it close after the cutoff. But I'll get there, and there'll be people at the other end. So, I'm doing what I got to do until a bull and a calf was headed my direction on the trail. And a bull's no bull, and with a calf, they take up some good amount of space on that trail. And they clearly own that trail, not just because there was a bunch of cow poop all over the place, but because they weren't going to move for me. Who am I? And hold on. And I stopped, and they quickly disappeared after a kind of a moo. Right, the bull looked back and went moo, and then had the calf go off to the side of the trail where it kind of is a downhill they both disappeared. And then I'm like, cool, it's cleared up, you know. And at this point, you know, there'd been sweepers, a couple of runners behind me, you know, taking their time to clean up the ribbons and stuff. And I was making sure that I was always ahead of them, and you know, that as much as possible lose sight of them. But here I was, stopped by the cows, and I was losing that advantage. And I proceeded to go up the hill, and once I got clear vision of the downhill and the next hill, you know, because it kind of it dips and it comes up and down. You could, well, I don't know. I swear there were like 8-10 other cows, you know, grown and young. And I looked back to where the bull was, and the bull was like moo, as if the bull was calling everybody else. And luckily that bull didn't have horns. But I just slowly made my way further up the trail until I just had to stop, because there was no way I was going to get past all of those cows. I've never been in that situation, and I didn't want to, you know, get attacked by cows and trampled over. There's just that many cows on the trail. And I just stood there and waited until eventually the sweepers were with me, you know, and they were like, okay, I guess we're just gonna have to wait. And they waited with me, and the cows got closer, and boy, they got close, like 5 feet close from me. And I just kind of stood as far as I could from them on the shoulder of the trail. And when I tried to like sort of make my way further up the trail, but along the shoulder, you know, that cow looked at me. But one cow, pretty big old brown cow, big old nostrils, and it started to move quickly my direction and kind of did that move, kind of, I don't know, I'm in charge here kind of thing. And man, I quickly like danced my way backwards, and the other runners, the sweepers were like, don't run. You know. Oh man. But you know, shout out to those two runners that were there to sort of be there and make sure that I wasn't doing anything more stupid than I really was to get myself killed. But yeah, eventually, you know, they made their way. And remember that one hiker? There was a hiker who I passed up in the hill. Well, he finally caught up with all of us, and what happened was, he's like, oh, they're just gonna stand there in the middle of the trail and, you know, not give us a break. And the hiker just, you know, walked on by. At this point, you know, a lot of the herd, are they even called herd? The cattle had kind of disappeared off to the side, just like the bull did. And the remaining 3, the one that tried to charge at me, and another full cow and a calf, you know, the one that was with me, the cow that charged at me, she was sort of the I guess the protector at that moment, and wanted the other 2 to move on out and leave, disappear before it would, you know, made sense. That happened eventually, and then we were off, the hikers and me, and I told it was a good 10 minutes, and but it felt like an eternity. But yeah, you know, I told the feeling partially deflated because of all that time. But I looked back at the runners and I said, I'll just see what I could do. And they're like, yep, go, you know, run your own race. And I'm like, But part of my race was the cows race. So I just, went on. It was a good rest. I'll give it that, and to sort of to get back at, that experience with the cows. I took out that, if I hadn't already, I think it was at this time where I took out that meat bar that I had packed, one of those Epic bars, and I had a meat bar. and I just needed a change. I didn't want to suck on any more goo chomps, and I didn't feel like, having some more of those almonds that I had with me, and I just needed a change. And and remember, I had kind of like had a bad gut issue and hurled some stuff, and so at this point I'm a little bit more settled. Had the meat bar, and it was, I don't know why I didn't have it earlier, but it was really good, and so good, and I think that made a difference, because after that point, getting to I guess would have been the 26 or 25 mile aid station at Inspiration Point, I was feeling really good. I was shuffling along, and this is where it also surprised me, that maybe it had to be with that I wasn't dealing with so much grade, but my knees were not as problematic. So either it was sort of one of those things where my body had overcome the pain, or maybe the funky knee wrap made a difference. Maybe it just wasn't the intensity of the terrain or the grade. There was less descent and climbing. I don't know, but my body was feeling better. My legs were feeling better. And I get to that aid station, and there is no aid station. And I stop, and I kind of I was hoping to get water here, right? Because my handheld is almost empty. I have, I can feel there's some liquid still in my Hydra pack, and when I reach down to towards my lower back, I could feel like a couple palmfuls of liquid still in there. But I stood there looking, at that area where the aid station was set up, and I was like, okay, what now, right? Then the runners behind me caught up, the sweepers, and they were kind of looking like, well, this is where we're done pulling ribbons off the course. And the one runner said, you should go, right? Go and finish, right? I'm like, okay. I was hoping to get water here, but I'll be okay. It's just about 5 more miles. It's only just that, right? And I said, okay. It is what it is. I said, so she goes, do you know where to go? I'm like, well, head back this way, right? And I said, I asked, are the ribbons still on the course? And she's like, yeah, the ribbons, there's still ribbons there. I'm like, okay, as long as there are ribbons, then I can make my way back. So at this point, I was really feeling like I'm on a mission now, right? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling motivated. I'm not depleted. I'm not deflated. I'm not like mincemeat. I'm like, this is the race, right? So I go, and it felt great, because at this point, it's not so exposed. It's in the forest. It's got coverage, and it's not so hot. And if it's just 5 miles, whatever little liquid I need, I'll be able to get by, as long as I don't get lost. And as I move my way through the rest of this part of the course, I'm noticing that there aren't any ribbons. Like, okay, but there are some markings that were, like the white. I don't know if they're spray painted on, or if it's just like flour, or some sort of white powder, chalk. That there are some of those markings that tell you which way to turn and whatnot. and I'll see some of those and I'll follow those. Then I started to get concerned that there was a point where certain sections of the course was an out direction, and another fork on the trail was the in section. So that's where I got worried. But I'm like, whatever, right? Whatever seems to look familiar, I'm just going to go. If there aren't any more ribbons, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go. Maybe maybe it was a mistake that that I was told that there were still ribbons on the course. So I was like, oh well, I'm going. And I was messaging my wife. I'm like, I'm likely out of time. I'm not gonna meet cutoff, but I'm on my way. And it was funny. I'm feeling good, and I'm just going. I'm making my way as best as I can, moving forward to try to finish this thing. And I'm by myself in the trail, and my phone buzzes. I pick it up. Well, I don't pick it up. I hold it up and I look at it, and it's a number that I don't recognize. And then why would I want to pick up the phone for a number that I don't recognize? Well, I have nothing else to do, and it's just me in the trail. I have some time, so I pick it up and I do one of the hello, hello, and I'm like, hey, is this Ruel? Yeah, it is. This is Tim from Inside Trail. I'm like, hey Tim, how's it going? I heard you're still out there. I said, yeah, I am. So, any idea where you're at? I'm like, no, well, I passed what would have been, I guess, the inspiration point, mile 25 or 26. You say, you have any course markings? I'm like, actually, I don't see any ribbons. So, I'm just kind of trying to figure stuff out at this point. And it's like, okay, well, and it's at this point where I know that I really know that as much that I'm telling myself maybe I can make it, but with the cow encounters and already having been like cutting it close, there's no way you can be told you're cutting it close, then have to do 10 minutes worth of cow time, and then end up making up for time, right? Cheaping early on wanted me to finish ahead of him because he considered himself a lost cause, yet Cheaping was gone and I'm way behind. So, the reality was I knew that I could get to the finish area, the finish line, but it won't be before the cutoff. And I'm not used to these events, so I can only imagine, when people are done, they're going to want to like pack up and go, and they don't want to have to wait for little old me. So I'm on the phone with Tim, and he's like, okay, I'm going to have a couple guys on the trail call to meet up with you. I'm like, okay, so what do? Do I kind of hang back? Do I just chill out? To me, then again, after I said that, I thought, that's kind of dumb. Why did I say that? I'm going to wait for them to carry me? Silly. He says, well, keep heading. You'll cross such and such road, and we'll have an aid station there for you, and then we'll take you from there. I'm like, okay, cool. And so, after having spoken to Tim, I was feeling, okay, there's some sort of alternative end to my day, but it's something to expect and look forward to, and okay, cool. So I just kept plugging along, moving forward, looking back once in a while to see if there's any runners behind me. And so what happens is, I get to a trail marker. Tim had mentioned a particular trail. And we both figured I would have been on a section that was colored yellow. I didn't see any ribbons. So I get to this end of the trail. I see a marker. It doesn't sound like the same trail. I'm like, oh well. But I see a road, and then Tim said cross over the road. I'm like, okay, I think that's the road. I'm gonna cross over the road. And at this point, I'm like, no, none of this stuff looks familiar. Okay, where are the markings? I don't see any markings. Okay, I think I gotta go that way. I go one way, and then I see like a park and some cars, and I don't see any ribbons still. I don't see any other markings, and I turn around to see if it looks familiar from the other angle. I'm like, no, like dang, right? So I get on my phone, and I'm hoping to make sense on the trail of where I was, and like none of this makes sense. I can't figure out where I'm at. I mean, there are clearly signs of roads and stuff, but as far as the course, I couldn't make any sense of it. So I got back on my phone, and I just dialed the number that was left on my phone when Tim called. Got voicemail, and started to leave voicemail till the phone was the second line was, you know how you get another call while you're on a call. Hang up and accept, and it was Tim. And I'm like, hey, I crossed the road, and I'm at this road, like a cross section of this road and this road. And he's like, okay, I know where that's at. I should have a guy there to pick you up in 5 minutes. Right? 5 minutes comes, and Craig rolls in an SUV. Got to meet Craig that day. It was wonderful sitting in his vehicle. He was very kind enough to pick me up. He had extra towels, because he ordinarily does, because he runs, and he likes to have other runners in his vehicle. And he has, looks like, probably dogs too. So I was concerned about stinking up his beautiful ride, and he was prepared. Got some towels thrown down in the front passenger seat, and I hopped in. And he said, yeah, this wasn't even on the course. I'm like, ooh, I was off course. And that explains why I didn't see any ribbons. Weird. And, and I wondered why I didn't even see just a few ribbons to get me onto the course. I just didn't see anything. And, or I didn't notice anything. So, oh well. I was happy to be in the ride. And didn't take long. We got to the parking lot where the finish area was. Had some small time to chat with Craig. It's good chatting with him, meeting with him, and getting that ride. Then it was I met up with Will as well from I guess from Inside Trails, and he was very apologetic. He felt that I could have been taken care of better when I was out there to I guess not get off course. But I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, sorry? Because he was sorry. I'm like, what are you sorry about? You know what? I totally had a blast. I don't think there's anything for him to be apologetic about. But he still felt sorry. But, and I appreciated it. At the end of the day, it's just about me testing myself. And I knew where I was as far as in that test, and I knew where my capabilities were, and I discovered where my weaknesses were, and I struggled a lot, and I overcame a bit of that. And I was towards the end, I was feeling great, and I wanted to do a final push just to see what would happen. And whatever happened, and it was the way it was supposed to happen. So we shook hands, and then I was chipping hadn't arrived yet at the finish, and so I grabbed some aid station chow. What looked good at the time? And, it was the tortilla chips. Oh man, those tortilla tortilla chips were awesome. You know, I just kept on chowing down on those things. Yeah, and I caught up with Mac. You know, he was just there chilling out. He was I think he was getting himself a beer. And I was like, hey, man. It was, you know, it's good seeing you out on the trail, you know, and tailing you for that first section. And you know, I DNF this thing, right? Not a big deal. I was happy to DNF it at this point. And, you know, but, you know, there are times, it's been over a week now, a little over a week since the event, and I'm, you know, I think, like, you know, had things been different, you know, maybe, you know, this, maybe that, but, you know, that's just for another run. That's just for another test, another thing for me to see if I could overcome and improve. You know, it's not a big deal. You know, I got to hang out a little bit at the end, which that I've not really had to do ever before, so it was cool. And, you know, Chiping eventually made it towards the finish, and he was hilarious at the end. He had his handheld, he tossed it up in the air in celebration before he crossed the finishing arch. And it was funny because he threw it up in the air, but it kind of went off to the side outside of the chute, so he had to kind of go under the flags and rope to get his water bottle, his handheld. And his friends were like, "Hey, what are you doing? The time's ticking. Get back, get on, and cross the finish." And he didn't care. He just wanted to have fun. And he retrieved his handheld and he tossed it over the finishing arch, crossed the line, and he kind of sat down on the grass, and Ken walked up to him, and I followed Ken to walk up to meet him at the end. He needed a little help getting up, just a little bit. Ken helped him up, and I shook Chiping's hand. I'm like, thanks for the time out there on the trail, spending time, and all the advice and stuff. And I told him I DNF'd it. I couldn't finish it. I didn't really understand. I couldn't really wrap my head around anything other than I just DNF'd it. But now it was more like I had to DNF it. I couldn't finish it because I was off the course. I didn't realize it till I studied it at home. Like, oh, I was supposed to turn early on. I was supposed to, after realizing that aid station was down and I couldn't get water, I was supposed to continue down the trail but quickly take a turn somewhere. And I didn't do that. And so it was almost instantly I just kind of ran off the course. Not the trail. I ran off the course. I was still on a trail, but it wasn't part of the course. And it explains a whole lot about not seeing markers. And anyways, but yeah, I told Chiping I took a DNF, and I was able to get everyone that signs up for the event gets a shirt, gets a pint glass. It was awesome. I love the pint glasses. I use the glasses a lot. The first one I got was in February. I use it for my drinks. What else do you do with glasses? But I like to drink. It's glass. It's not like plastic, so I like to drink my bourbon and scotch in those glasses. I don't fill them up clearly, but I like the feel of glass and my whiskey. Anyway, so I wanted to hang out and just sort of continue to experience, the setup and the teardown, and the new sort of friendships that I've made, the people that I've met, and but I had to go. Part of the reason why there was such this immediate need to finish those last 5 miles was I also received a text from my wife that my son one of his eyes were swelling up, and it's happened before because of allergies. And he was going to be fine. Get a compress on, take a Benadryl, and just chill out, and things settle down eventually. But at the moment, spending hours out in the trail and going through highs and lows in emotion and psychological stuff and physical stuff, knowing that the family's out there and there's a little bit of difficulty going on, I just wanted to be with them, and I wanted to hurry. I wanted to run my ass off to the end as much as I can possibly do and get home. And I was using that as a motivator, and it worked. But I didn't get to finish the way I ideally would have liked to finish. But there I was. I needed to leave the event. Finally, said goodbye to the folks. Got to my vehicle. Saw a couple ladies that had finished. I also saw finished before Cheaping finished, and they were at their vehicle getting ready to go, and I congratulated them out there. We ran alongside, passed each other up several times early on in that first section before the first aid station. There's people, forms and runners that easily recognize just for the few moments that you're out there on the trail. I spoke with them, and congratulated them, and we talked about the cows because they encountered the cows too, and it was funny because they were showing pictures of the cows, and I was showing them video of the cows. The cow encounter, the cattle. Well, I don't know. Yeah, hopped on my ride. I threw a towel on my seat because I was disgusting, and I didn't feel like doing anything to change. Just got in the vehicle. Set a course on the map app to get home, and spent the ride back, the time home, and a few days to sort of reflect on what had happened on that day, and took some time to actually sit down to record, only for more time to pass because of recording issues. But I'm glad I have. And I'm not good at doing these sort of run reports, race reports, because I don't race a lot. I just try to capture as much as I can as far as leading up to and how things sort of went in my mind throughout the thing. And I had a whole lot of fun. I had hoped to have finished in a good way. Didn't happen, but it didn't sort of tarnish my desire to do another one. I got to take a break because these were like, it was an August run, then a September run, and I need to take some time, a month or 2 or 3, and then see if I can do another one, because it takes me away from the family for a whole day, and the family misses me, and that stuff is important to me, to make sure that I don't stir things up from the home front with all this running. I gotta spread it out and make it work for everybody. Yeah, but I look forward to the next thing. I really like the events with inside trails. I've done 2 already. I really, really enjoy it. I like the crew. I like the setup. I like the vibe. I get to see folks that I've become sort of friends with, or new friends with, and that pint glass is pretty awesome. Since I do like design type stuff, I really, really dig the artwork on the shirts and the medals, and it's pretty cool. And I didn't walk away with a medal, and I'm not a big medal collector. I got the shirt. The shirt was awesome, and I got the pint glass, and they've got the artworks on the shirt, the artworks on the glass. The folks, they have stickers that, you just take with you, and take some stickers, and, I'm happy. I'm a happy guy. Good time on the trail, some good suffering, some good reflection, and yeah, that was that. That was the run. That was a whole lot of fun. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you with an update on the next episode. If you like what you hear, check out the other episodes. There's some pretty awesome ones, and there's a ton of mediocre ones, and there's a ton of really lousy ones. But listen to them anyways. The website is ruelsrunning.com. That's the website, one of the websites that I'm working on. It's kind of looks like garbage at the moment, but I'll fix it up. And there's a Facebook group so that you could have another group to add to your Facebook profile. It's Ruel's Running Podcast, and ask to join. I'll let you in, and then we can talk about things like shoes and poop and diarrhea. And yeah, that's that. Take care, eat something delicious, hug your family, and go run something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.